I don't know if anyone has asked you this question yet, but I don't remember if you've talked about it, like casting. Were you
Yeah.
a recruit or did you like send in a video or go to a casting call?
Yeah,
Tell me
so
about that.
a little bit of both, and I don't know how much I'm allowed to say right now, but there's
Right.
a long history of Big Brother in my family, right? So I don't know how much of it got shown, but a large piece of why I was so excited to go on the show is because it's not even really about telling my story; it was about telling my mom's story, right? So
Right.
little background. So my mom came over to the United States in 1993 when she married my dad from the Philippines. She had never been before. Married and met my dad through mutual friend, wrote letters back and forth for several years, and then came to the United States in 93. And at the time, the only public figure Asian woman for my mom to look at was none other than Julie Chen Moonves. So my mom has been a huge Julie Chen Moonves fan for years and years, and so integral for her and her story. My mom would watch Julie just to integrate herself with American culture and help her learn her English. And so we've been watching all the CBS shows, the Big Brothers, the Survivors, the Amazing Races, like all throughout growing up. But for me, like in a little bit of my background, like I never like thought I would actually like have a chance to like get on the show, right? Like
Really?
I never like I'm a totally like normal guy. Like I live a super modest life. I'm really integrated in down here in Atlanta, and so I know a lot of people in Atlanta just from being a part of a lot of stuff. Like I started a run club down here. I'm involved in a lot of stuff, whatever. But I just never thought like I'm not like a model or like an influencer. Like I'm literally just like a normal guy. So
Right.
I had no idea that I could actually end up in something like that. And I've always been a big personality and like whatever, but I never really thought. So for the most part, I was like I would have applied because I just never thought I would actually get on. Like I didn't think I actually had a story that people would be interested in, right? So
Mm.
and I'll kind of give like high level kind of how it went down just in case. But for the most part, I was at a random concert in Atlanta with like less than 100 people. And a random person comes up to me and is like, "Hey, I think you'd be great on TV." And I was
Stop.
like, "Yeah." And it was a 90s country cover band concert called the Boot Scoop
What?
Boogie. And so me and my friends saw that advertisement. We were like, "Yo, we have to go." So it less than 100 people. My friend group are all fun and young, and so we walk in and just like take over, change the atmosphere of the place. We get everybody involved, like everybody's dancing now, jumping around, having fun for this like small cover band. And so this lady comes up, she's like, "You'd be great on TV," and I was like, "That's so nice, like thank you." She was like, "No, seriously, like I'm recruiting for a show called Big Brother," and I was like,
Wow.
"No way." And she was like, "Give me your number and your Instagram." And I was like, "Absolutely. Like that would be a dream." Like granted my background, right? And
Right.
so that kind of started the whole process. So
Wow.
it was totally random, but like two worlds just colliding at the right time.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
totally random. Did you
right.
believe her?
I mean, I was just kind of like my friends heard it and they were kind of like, "Yeah, sure." But for me, I was like,
Right.
"Dude, worth a shot. Like
Yeah,
I'll
what can
figure
you
it
lose?
out." Yeah, like it's Big
Yeah.
Brother. Like I am a huge fan. So I was like, it's definitely worth a shot. I just like never and literally up until no joke, like the Friday I was told that I like, when I found the key, like that was real. Like I when I found the key, like that was the moment I was like, holy crap, like I actually am going. Like, they don't really like tell you. So I
Yeah.
really like the whole process, really didn't believe I was actually gonna make it until I literally got the key and was like, oh my god, like my reaction was totally genuine. So
A lot of people say that when they get the key, that it's fake. And I'm like, no, I think that part is exactly true because I talked to Felicia last season and she
yeah,
said that she got it and it was like a real, like, you're in the running and stuff, but you don't
right,
know you're actually going.
right. And they do
Yeah.
a great job of like kind of keeping you in, kind of not giving you the full thing. And for me, I was like, I have to like tell my job, and they're like, hey, just keep that in mind. And I'm like, what does that mean? So I don't know how it went for everybody else, but I know like for Matt's situation, like what y'all saw in my intro package in my field shoot, like was totally genuine. Like I literally found it. I literally did shoot an arrow and went out, found the key, and was like, I ran and bear hugged my best friend Jordan, and like that was totally 100% like authentic and genuine.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Um,
I love that they keep that genuine like that, you know what I mean?
right,
Like,
100%.
it can seem a little corny, but that stuff like that, it's real.
Oh my gosh, and yeah, like I said, like for someone like me where it's like a dream come true, like
Yeah.
course, like I was so glad as well that they kept it genuine because I it really was a pure reaction. And even when they like told my family, like they kind of shot another thing, like that was real too. Like for them finding out, and my mom, they actually hid it so my mom could find it, and
Oh,
so that was really
that's
cool too.
awesome.
I don't know how much of that was used, but yeah, just a dream come true experience.
Oh my gosh. So, oh my gosh, it's been like what, almost 2 weeks now you've been out of the house, right?
It's crazy because it is going so fast. Like even
It
thinking like
is.
yeah, I've connected with Lisa obviously,
Yeah.
and even being like there's going to be someone added this Thursday to that mix, and you
Mhm.
know I'm trying to make sure she's okay and she knows that like hey I know it's a crazy whirlwind and you're kind of blindsided but like it gets better, and being one
Yeah.
of the first evictees like your mind isn't too messed up, like you're everything gets
Right.
better, it's going to be okay. So it's definitely important to continue to show support. But for the BB community has been so loving and supportive.
Good.
Granted, my
Good.
situation was pretty unique, you know, which we can talk about.
Mhm.
They've been so loving, supporting not only of me but my family. That's been a huge blessing. So yeah, 2 weeks. How crazy, right?
Oh my gosh, it's like the wildest 2 weeks in modern Big Brother season, I mean, since I've seen. I don't know when the last big blowout was, Matt,
I don't know.
and I'm
I don't.
sorry you were a part of it, but I mean, you're part of history in a little way in a little
And I'll
bit.
take it. I'll take it. You know, like that. That was definitely a takeaway for me was that I do think that is going to be an iconic moment, you know, in Big Brother
Yeah.
history. And as long as it is, my reaction and response will never change and will always be the same. And
Mhm.
I hope that when viewers, fans, you know, previous house guests will always be able to look back and be like, that was an example of love and forgiveness and grace, you know, and it got bigger than the game for a moment for somebody, which is rare, you know, in Big Brother, but also in reality TV. So I feel honored that my life hopefully can be used as a model for what I think is going to be steps for us as a country, a generation, a culture, in a game where it's pretty rare to see something like that. So wild experience.
Yeah, you handled it very well.
Thank
Very
you,
well.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. So I wanna know, like I said, it's been, like, almost 2 weeks. Have you caught up on any of the episodes? I saw you on TikTok Live watching one,
Yeah,
but, like, any clips or even, like, live feeds? Are you watching that?
yeah, so I feel like I am fully caught up, but I tell everybody I'm like the moment you think you're caught up, like I'm sure me and you will get off of here and be like hop back on the
Yep.
phone and be like, yo, what? So I feel like I'm as caught up as of before we hopped on this conversation. But yeah, so I feel like I'm caught up. I kind of know what's going on. And even this week, it's like it is just getting crazier and crazier. So the
Yeah,
story of the season is like absolutely insane. Yeah.
yeah, it really is. And you brought up Lisa. Have you talked to her since being out? Obviously, you said that you caught up with her a little bit.
Yeah, so I think I was one of Lisa's first calls, and then you know
Aw.
she Facetimed me the next day because her parents wanted to meet me and just say that they you know were admired the way I handled it, and then her mom was like, Matt, she literally called you before she called me. Like, what's up with that? But yeah, I love Lisa. It was I think she wanted to tell me like, hey, when I lied about me voting for you, it wasn't that I didn't love you, care about you, support you. It was just a game thing. And I was like, no, Lisa, I
Oh,
was watching it and I was like, keep lying. Tell him I
yeah,
suck. Tell him I'm ugly. Tell him my eyes are crazy. Like, keep going. Keep lying. So I didn't feel that at all. But yeah, we definitely got to connect. I think she's going to take like a week just to process the whole situation.
mhm,
And I think we'll get together and talk about some of the stuff that happened because our situations were pretty
yeah.
similar.
Yeah, you both went through the same thing basically with
Right.
Angela. I mean,
Right.
it's like I said, I've never, ever, ever seen anything like it. I mean, you can't comment on this, but people are like, "Oh, she's a plant. She's a CBS
Right.
plant." I'm like, guys, I think that's just Angela,
No, it is. I
but
mean, to
it's
me,
scary.
like that was real. Like to me, to Matt, that was real. That was 100% real. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
So I think it's just that's Big Brother, man. You get a lot of interesting characters in a house together, and sometimes things like that happen, you know?
yeah. Yeah. What did you think of the fight with her and Lisa, and then also her blow up with Quinn? They showed that on the show.
I know. So I would say like the Lisa blow up had been brewing, and it was brewing while I was in the house. I know that I think I was one of the first people that even kind of just told Lisa like, "Hey, I think people think you're working with Angela," and she was like, "What?" And so she kind of went, and I think that's kind of what sparked their conversation in the first place. But Lisa had some other beef with some other people in the house, like we saw in the episode with Tucker, which was hilarious. But uh, it was definitely really hard to watch that episode because
Mm,
when she ran into the corner and cried, like
yeah.
I might be one of the few people that understands what that feels like, and it's hard, and we love Big Brother. There's the whole controversy and debate over old and new, but as a human being, I thought that was hard to watch because I wouldn't want any human being to feel like the only response that you have is to run into a corner and cry because of the way somebody
Yeah.
treated you. So that was really hard to watch, and I watched it on TikTok live, and I think if I wasn't live, I would have bawled, and I started to tear up just because I know what that feels like, and so um, that's why I wanted to connect with her as soon as I could, just to make sure she's okay and that she has love and
Mhm.
support on the outside, even from me. So yeah, that was difficult and unnecessary. I think that a lot of my um, difficulty and a lot of watching a lot of the responses and actions from Angel in the first couple weeks has been that she could have made the same moves removed from it being extremely personable and making
Right.
people feel like they would be attacked. Like in the moment, when she started clapping, I was thinking to myself like, Big Brother started, baby. And like, and she made a comment where she was like, have fun campaigning to try to convince everybody that you didn't. But I was kind of like, yeah, like that's the game, right? But then when it was like comments about how I look, comments about my character, comments about my intelligence, comments about the way my mom raised me, it just kind of took it to another level, which really did impact the way I was playing in the house. And I think if it had just been a game move, definitely removed from putting my mind thinking about my family back home and how they're perceiving everything. For example, like you can see with Kenny right now, I
Yeah.
think that maybe I would have strategized differently in that situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about Kenny actually, since you brought
Yeah.
him up. What do you think of him, do you think he's really in the mindset of needing to go home, or do you think it's strategy?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like I will say that it really hit me one night when me and Kenny were talking, and he was basically like, um, "Hey man, you're the only person I've got," and he basically had told me that he was like, "I ride with you no matter what," and I was like, "Kenny, I've never gone against my word that I ride with you too. You're the first connection I had on day one, night one." And a large piece of Kenny's game was dependent on mine. Like a huge connection point where I gave a lot of trust to Kenny was he came up to me night one and he said, Matt, he goes, I think you have some of the most potential in this house to take this thing and run with it. He goes, literally, I've just been observing, and when you sit down, people just migrate to where you are. And he was like, that's the person in this game that either gets booted quick or literally is going to be unstoppable to the end. Unfortunately, it was the latter. but
What?
um but
Was it your
that
fault? No.
right, I know that's the question. So I do think the game would be different if I was in the house and did not have to go through that situation, but it happened, so I'm rolling with it, and maybe it just wasn't in the cards for me. But that allowed me to give a lot of trust to Kenny because his whole game became dependent on what I was going to do. And that's a really, really powerful thing to have in Big Brother in that game is that you have people that basically say, you go and create whatever and I'll be your number. I mean, that's a luxury, right? So I think
Mhm.
Angela's primary noms were based off, and this is what she said in her nomination speech, on people that she felt had talked the least amount of game and had moved the slowest. So
Mhm.
she put up Lisa, Kenny, and Chemo. And so I think Kenny was in that conversation because Kenny was playing slow because he was basically saying, Matt, you go, people are going to come to you, you're going to go to people, you figure out what you want to do, and I ride with what you want. So he kind of took a step back. So I do think it's a little bit, but all that to say, when you're sitting on the block in reality and in real life, you definitely start to think about, man, like, would it be that bad to go home? And that's just being real and human, you know. And obviously it's easy to sit back as a viewer in the comfort of your own home that you feel safe in, with people that you know love you and you know you can trust, and say, how could he do that? There's $750,000 on the line. This is Big Brother, all the work you did to get there, which is totally understandable. But at the same time, when you're on the block and you've been living with people that you don't know if you can trust their authenticity and how genuine they are, and you start to think about those things, it definitely gets difficult. But it kind of hit me differently when Kenny had communicated. He was like, Matt, you don't even understand to the extent. He's like, I'm married and I have kids and they're my life. And I don't understand that. You know, I that's not my situation. So I definitely feel for him in that. And I think that's real. But at the same time, I do think it's becoming strategy. What is helping Kenny and what will help Kenny's game is the more he just gets involved. So we saw the Ball Players Alliance kind of get formed last night. That will be gas on the fire for Kenny's game. He, you know, even if the misconception of there's a girls' alliance, so the guys need to come together, even if that's not true, him having people that he can feel like he can play this game with. What I think will continue to put him in that position is when he just, you know, starts to continue to feel like the lone wolf and like he doesn't have anybody and he doesn't have a game. But if Kenny does have a game, he does have people that want to talk, he does have alliances, he will always be going out and fighting, because I think that's just who he is.
Yeah, perfect. And I think he's really getting into much better spirits now that he's
Yeah,
making these alliances finally.
absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah. Can we talk about McKenzie?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we saw you guys, you know, almost start a showmance, but it was cut short. Are you gonna be, you know, getting together after the show? What do you think?
Uh, I think on my side, like, I would love
Right.
to. I definitely would love to. I think, yeah, I think McKenzie has a lot of the traits that I'm looking for in a partner, and I think we just didn't want to feel pressured, right? We, you know, obviously we all watched last season, and we were like, let's not get in that situation, you know what I mean? And so I think for us, we were like, it's bad for your game if you're in a showman. Sometimes it works, but it's very hard. It makes the route difficult. But after, you know, that getting exposed and targeted and pinned on our back, in the first, you know, 3 hours, it was like, well, I guess let's just roll with it. Like, why not? And I said time and time again, I was almost thankful, because it made me feel like we could just have that like already out and now just be like, I mean, there's a scenario where we do become a thing in a showmance. There's a scenario where we just become friends and we work together and we get to make plays. And I think, like, who knows where that would have ended up in terms of the game, but like, we were even having fun thinking like, okay, let's say like it's down the line, we're in a throwmance, we're looked as that, and then, you know, we set up a fake fight where Leah and I actually are a thing, and then you find out, and then you fake blow up on me, and we blow it all up, and but actually that never happened. Like, it would have been so fun to like play the game in that light. There's a whole new world of you know, opportunities and gameplay, but in the real world, 100%. I mean, she's got like 5 of my hoodies that she's wearing pretty often in the show, and I left them for her. So hey, just
Aw.
can't you can take the boy out of the South, can't take the Southern gentleman out of the man. But
Aw.
yeah, I definitely hope we get that opportunity. On my end, I'm like, I meant what I said, you know, in my exit interview. Like, if I knew the end of every story of the books that I picked up, then it would ruin the beauty of the read, right? And so right now we're in chapter 1. I don't know what chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are going to write, but I'm definitely excited to see where it goes. And I think she's an amazing girl, and she's a beautiful girl, and I would love that opportunity to continue to get to know her on the outside.
I wish you guys the best, whether you become something or just friends. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate it. I
No
appreciate it.
pressure, because you know how the fans can be. The fans can be a little crazy with the showmances.
Right. Yeah. But so, you know, sometimes pressure makes diamonds, you know, so
Yeah.
I welcome it, and you know, I'm interested to see, like, because for me, like all the edits and all the tags and all the clips, like it beautifully becomes this like scrapbook of your experience, you know.
Mhm.
And I'm so thankful that fans are so committed to doing that. And I watch all of them because it allows me to reflect and reminisce and, you know, enter into that nostalgia of the experience that I had. And it was weird. Like the first night I got evicted, you know, I had left the show, walked off stage. Long story short, I'm, you know, in bed that night. And I'm like, what do I feel right now? Like, how do I acknowledge and address my feelings in this moment? Which is hard to do as a man. And so I was like, what am I feeling? And I was like, man, like obviously I'm sad I got evicted, but at the same time, like the person that I fell asleep talking to and felt safe with for the last 11 days is not here anymore, you know? And that's like a weird, hard feeling. And I was surprised that I felt that, you know? So everybody I think is like, you only knew each other for 10 days, but it is like a microwave of relationship and experience and trust and interaction. So it is 10 days, but it's a really intense 10 days. And like I said, I think me feeling that after the show, the night of my eviction, I was like, I can't believe like that is one of the predominant feelings I'm experiencing right now. So all that to say, we'll see what happens. And she, you know, it can't just be a what does Matt think? It's got to be a what does McKenzie think too. So we'll see.
That's true. I did ask kind of a one-sided question there.
Right, but
Um,
we'll see.
what okay, if anything, because I don't really know if you would, but if anything, what would you change about your gameplay?
Yeah, I definitely think that. I mean, my game rose and fell on how I dealt with the first week's HOH. Granted, you know, I don't think what I did showed what my intentions behind what I did. Obviously, like I didn't feel like I was threatening. I thought the cut that a lot of people saw from the episode, um, you know, maybe didn't tell the entire story, but it still told the correct story. But I think essentially I was trying to tell Angela, our conversation at the moment was around how being in the Big Brother house can get you to believe all these narratives in your head that aren't real. And then you start to like make things and think a certain way based off like these fake conversations that are happening in your head. And so I was like, isn't that crazy? Because like I was like, Angela, I thought you were coming for me. And when I felt that, I was thinking to myself, like, man, if she's coming for me and next week I win, I'm coming for you. Like, and I was like, oh my goodness. So that's kind of the context of that conversation. And then, so even more so when she told me in front of everybody that it was threatening and aggressive, I was like even more thrown off by that because I mean, I've obviously know, like I'm very self-aware of who I am, how I speak, and how I look as much as I can be, and am trying to grow in that every moment that I'm alive. And I went into that conversation knowing like this is a really pivotal point of our season so far, and this conversation is definitely going to project what happens for the rest of the season. And so I knew that, and so I went in with the best of intentions. I tried to, and the best temperament that I could have, and speak as kindly and soft, as gracious as I could. So that's kind of the context surrounding that statement that I do think would be helpful for people to know. But at the end of the day, like even if it was like threatening, that comment is the game. You know what I mean? It's like if you put me up and I put you up, is like if you watch the episodes, how many people are still saying that? Like, if you
Right.
watch the feed, people are still saying that. Like, literally, McKenzie said it. She's like, you know, if I use my upgrade and he puts me up, then next week I'll put you up.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, so
Right?
like, why all of a sudden is this like not getting just pinned? Like, you know, so it's just a
As
part of
Cedric
the
comes down the stairs,
right. Yeah, he's like McKenzie, McKenzie, McKenzie. So
Cedric starts clapping and does the whole thing.
right, right. So I'm literally watching some of those things like on the outside now, and just being like, why for me was that so highlight? Like that is a very like common statement. It's like saying the grass is green, the sky's blue. Like another one on the outside that I thought was so interesting and funny to look back on is so it's essentially the context of the conversation. I was telling Angela like, hey, I just think these are your options. Like these are your options for this week. One of which, number one, is to put me up. So it's put me up. Two is to go back to what you originally said with your noms, which was you were trying to pin people and non-people that were playing too slow or not hard enough. So I was like, you put up to core. Or three, you put up someone like me that some people think can just win the vote and won't get sent home and also can win AI Arena like Tucker. So the first thing I did after that conversation is I went straight to Tucker. And I was like, hey, dude, I just want you to know, like, I did say your name to Angela. I wanted you to hear it from me just so that you know, like, I don't know if that's going to happen, whatever. And then he came back to me minutes later. And he was like, I want you to know, if you need a pawn, I'll be your pawn. And so I was like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Like, I would never ask anybody to do that because, like, I came to play, I came to compete, and I had opportunities to pull myself off, right? And I did not capitalize on them. That's the game. So when Tucker said that, I was like, that's crazy. So I told Angela, I said, if you want a pawn, Tucker said, he just told me he'd be your pawn. You do what you want to do. You know the other options, one of which is to put me up, and she ended up putting me up. But even in the past 2 weeks, Tucker's volunteering to be a pawn, and I'm like, why all of a sudden, like for me, that was like a nuke, and now it's like totally acceptable. So I don't know, man. Like the game changes and it's something new all the time, but it is definitely a different experience as a viewer because I'm sitting here being like, people are saying the same things I said, and people are offering the same things I was offering. But for me, because of my situation, it didn't get to play out the way that it could have. And so if I was still in the house, I do think things would be a little different.
Yeah. So you're watching the feeds. Did you ever watch the feeds before?
I'd never watched the feeds before because
Okay.
it's so funny because I literally always thought you had to pay extra, and I was like, for several years, like a broke college student. And so to come to find out when
No,
I
I
got
get
out,
it.
I was like, I've got Paramount Plus. I was like, the fees I don't have to pay. So my ignorance is bliss. That's a stupid
Yeah.
mistake for years on my part. I've been missing out on, but
Yeah.
I'm watching them now. Like, and it's
Yeah.
hard because I could be on them all day, but I'm trying to stay up because I love the story that's being told.
Does it surprise you? Like I know you're all talking about it in the house. They're still talking about how the layout is and like if they can
Yeah.
scroll. Does any of the live feeds surprise you? How there's only like I'm looking right now. There's only like four, and then usually they're only in like two rooms at a time. Does that
Yeah.
surprise you?
Yeah, it definitely does. Like when you're in the house, like this sounds so stupid, like to look back on, but like all the mirrors, like I didn't really mentally connect with me. Like, oh, that's where cameras are. Like, not just the cameras in the
Yeah.
corners. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I think I've literally changed in front of a couple of these.
Oh yeah, they're
Like
in there. They're in
yeah,
there watching.
and I was like, "Dadgum, like they know me all too well." So, it definitely does surprise me, but it's so freaking sick. Big Brother is the coolest show ever, and like that whole
Oh,
concept is so freaking awesome. So I've been missing out for years and years, but definitely getting to capitalize on it now.
oh yeah, it's a great time. Did anything surprise you in the house? Like the layout of the house, anything like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, I was not expecting to walk in and genuinely be surprised at how pretty the house was. Like,
Yeah.
you've seen other seasons where, like, maybe you don't rock with the theme as much. Like, I was freaking pumped. I was like, this theme is dope. It looks cool. Like, the comic verse or whatever, I was like, that made me a little nervous. I was like, I don't know how much I could rock with that. But like when I got in and was like, there was like floral stuff, outdoorsy. The like, I work in tech and software before Big Brother, so like the whole coding like vibe I thought was super
Yeah.
cool. And yeah, I mean, I was like, dang, did they pick me for this AI thing? Because like I've literally like sold AI product, like I don't know. So I was like, did that help me in casting? I don't know. But I thought the layout was super, super cool. That definitely shocked me being in the house. But yeah, I mean, the other thing is that when you're in there and there's 16 people, it feels very small, very small. And
Yeah.
there's days where they're setting up stuff outside, so you're kind of inside, and it is hard to get away. Like the last day, I obviously started to pick up like I was probably gonna be on the block, and people were talking about voting me out the last day, but
Yeah.
I had already shown my cards. Like there, obviously looking back, there's some gameplay and situations I could have done that would have helped, but like everybody knew what I was trying to do, and I wasn't going to change it. I was like, please, my whole campaign was give me the opportunity the opportunity, give it to me. I was like, vote me out week 3, but give me the opportunity week 2 to come and get vengeance. Let me do it. That was my campaign. And it's what I would have done, 100%. So I would have came out and gunned for HOH. I would have tried everything I could to get it. I would have wanted to play every challenge and gave everybody a show, because it would have been very clear. If I won HOH week 2, I would have said, hey, y'all take the week off. No one has to do anything. It's all focus is right here. So you've got the power of veto if you win, Angela, and you've got the AI arena competition to get off. But if not, I'm coming right at you. And
Yeah.
that was my play. I told everybody. But again, the house is so small. I knew everybody was kind of congregating. And I was like, I've got 2 opportunities. Here's the game. The game's definitely changed with 3 noms, and now we have to play a little bit different. I'm either going to go out and kick some ass and get myself off and start revenge towards 2024, or it's just not going to be in the cards for me. And so I took that last day to just kind of be like, I'm going to spend time with McKenzie. I'm going to kind of take in like the fact that I'm here and just appreciate it. And I would just walk around and be like, man, I can't believe I got to do this, you know? And so yeah, it feels pretty small in those times. It's hard to find your own personal space.
Yeah, it does look a lot bigger from viewers. I can tell
Right.
you that, because
Right.
it does look big. The angles of the cameras.
They make it look big. They
Um,
got 0.5.
yeah, I really. So it's kind of soon, but would you ever play Big Brother again?
I've gone back and forth. I know that, like, in terms of my experience, I would. Like, I had top to bottom, like, the best experience. So huge shout out to CBS. Like, they were so good to me, like, from the beginning to the end. Like, so kind, so supportive, so resourceful. Like, I had such a great experience, like, being on the show. In terms of the game, yeah, like I would want to play, but also like it makes me nervous, like considering the last time I played was what went down was what went down. But what I really want is I want an opportunity to show how I could have played. I had
Yeah.
all of this in the bank of like, I wanted to play in the historical competitions. Like I wanted to be on the wall for 6 hours, just
You
like,
know,
I even watching last night's episode with that competition, and I was, as humbly as I can say, like I'm thinking to myself, like, if I was there, it'd be a totally different dynamic. Like to have another person who can compete in something like that, you know what I mean? And so I definitely like wanted to show that off. I wanted to play. The social dynamic like would be very different if I was still in the house, and given where I was with Kenny and the throwmance and the barbershop, like I think even in terms of the game, like, so, just the cards that were dealt to us this season. But if there was no downgrade and Chelsea and Cedric had a vote, think of how much differently that could have been, because both of them were in the
mhm,
barbershop. And so for even my eviction to be, for so many to say it's because you're a social and physical threat and because I'm going with the house, think of how differently things could have been if they actually had a vote, right? So I know, like, for example, Chelsea, used to work for a church. I used to work for a church. We had a huge, strong connection on the first day, and recognized like a lot of my previous career was aligned with her current. So I think Chelsea would have been a big piece of my game, but she didn't have a vote, and so I
yeah.
think like that would have changed a lot of the dynamic. So all that to say, like a lot of those things like left a lot of hunger in me to be like, man, I didn't even get to like cook. I didn't even get to play, like, and I didn't even get to compete. So when people ask like, would you go on the challenge? Would you go on the Amazing Race? I'm like, bro, yes, because
Next
I'm
question.
hungry. Like I'm hungry. I want to play, and I don't feel like I got that opportunity just because of the situation. But it's how the cards are dealt, and I played the best hand that I could.
You're gonna be called for the challenge, Matt. Are you kidding me?
I hope. I actually was talking about it with Matt and Jag recently, and we were like, man, if the Challenge USA, like we may all get the opportunity to get on, and like, oh
Oh yeah.
man, like I'm gonna be like a like gas touches a flame, because I'm still like, last night the hardest thing to watch was like watching that HOH, because I was like Oh man, like I
Uh,
wish like I could have added a different dynamic, like and put up a different number. And if I was in there, like, and then if I won, like how things would be so different. So I'm still so hungry, and so yeah, maybe I would.
yeah, I can see it happening. Yeah, Kenny, speaking of that competition, Kenny came in second place. That
Right,
was like, that was a
y'all.
good competition.
Kenny's a
Yeah.
dog. Kenny's a dog,
Yeah.
and I'm telling you, like Kenny will compete, bro. Like
Yeah.
I think if he can work through some of this emotional side of things, like Kenny will go far in this game. And I think in my opinion, he's got the story that can be I was here and now I'm here. If Kenny gets power, I mean, we're both watching live feeds. That is going to change so much if Kenny gets power.
Yeah.
And that's similar to how I knew I kind of had to play the game. I knew I was going to come in. The first thing anybody said to me in the entire house, Steph, the entire house, first thing anybody ever said to me, I watched Cedric and Quinn, they dap up, they turn around and look at me and they go, "What is this, America's Next Top Model?" And then Cedric goes, "Yeah, I mean, they got me standing up here next to this Greek god." And I was like, damn, I'm screwed. Like, I'm screwed.
Wow.
And so I was like, I knew I was working against this like physical thing. I didn't know. Like, I didn't know who I was gonna get to be in the house with, but I was like, yo, they're like 5'8", 5'9". I'm 6'2". Like, this is not looking good. And the other person I walked in was Kenny. So I was like, this is not looking too good for Matt right now. And I was just thinking to myself, like, I literally think the only way to keep me here is to go and win. It's gonna have to be to get power. Like, I can do what I'm gonna try to do socially. But if they're already thinking that, and then they find out I'm social, it's going to make the threat of Matt even worse. So I was like, I'm going to have to go in and freaking compete, especially with the 3 nom situation, or you're going to have to compete. So I think Kenny has a similar mindset where he's like, I've got to go and compete and I've got to win for the longevity of my game. I think it makes the season even more fun to watch, as a viewer. But Kenny's got that dog in him, and bro's going to compete. And like you said, he won veto. That was freaking crazy. That was not an entirely physical comp. And then he got second in that HOH. I think we're going to continue to see Kenny K come out and kick some ass, man.
Yeah, that competition, the first one, the stacking one, he didn't
Yeah,
drop it once.
that was
Not
hard.
once.
That was definitely difficult. So, Kenny can play, man. I mean, like, there's a reason Kenny's on Big Brothers, not just because he's bald and is a cop and is not telling people. Like, Kenny can compete. Kenny socially has got some tricks up his sleeve, and I'm rooting for him.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the cop thing. Did you suspect that at all?
The AI
Him
Arena
being a
comp.
cop? No, him being a cop. Did you
Oh,
suspect
okay,
that at
yeah.
all?
So like I did not know until like first call, I get my phone back, I call my mom, and obviously she's very emotional, she's upset, she's angry and frustrated. And then she's like, Matt, your dad wants to write Kenny a letter because he's so thankful, as a fellow police officer. And I was like, what? And she was like, Matt, Kenny's a police officer. And I was like, what? And then she was like, that's why he was so loyal to you, because of your dad being in the police force and retiring from it. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea. So I was like, there's one day they're like, Kenny, you want to cook dinner tonight? He's going to get outed. He's going to get outed big time. So funny.
Oh, well, he did have a food truck for a little while, so maybe he's still good.
Okay, good. Maybe he can still whip it up. But I was definitely surprised.
Yeah.
I did not pick up on that at all.
I was rooting for him because he's from Boston, my neck of the
Yeah,
woods, and
yeah,
being from an undercover cop, Derek won that season when
right.
he was an
Legend.
undercover cop. So I
Legend.
was rooting for him, and I still am.
Yeah, right. I am too, and I think Kenny's a dark horse, man. If things
Yeah.
could shake out where Kenny gets some power, and it could change so much, so much.
Yeah. Has anybody else's jobs or professional or even just personal lives surprised you?
Yeah, Cedric. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I was so because he told me he was a model. So like the comment
Yeah.
that I told you about, I thought that was crazy because I was like, bro, you're a literal model. What do you mean me model? Like I'm not a model. You are actually a model. So looking back, I'm like, dang, like that is wild. I mean, the dude's beautiful. Like, hello. So
Right?
I definitely bought it, but I never would have guessed, man. Like that one definitely got me. But everybody else, for the most part, I just feel like it's been pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Lisa, celebrity chef.
celebrity chef, I definitely knew, like, Lisa knew what she was doing in the kitchen, you know, like,
Yeah.
yeah, she like, I knew. I was like, you're not just, you know, don't have kids and can cook this good, you know? So,
Yeah.
yeah, but she definitely commented on that a little bit, just of like some of the caliber of some of the people she's cooked for, and I was like, dang. But yeah, I thought everybody would thought Lisa was actually like an orthodontist. I was
I know.
like, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know about that. But
I don't get that either.
I know I thought that was weird. I thought that was weird.
Okay. So before we go, I don't want to keep you for too long, but is there anything going on with you? I know I've seen you on TikTok. You are flying with these follows. You're getting so much. But anything going on that you want to talk about, and also your social media where people can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think like I want to continue to tell the story of our season, you know, and I absolutely like I love Big Brother and I love all CBS shows I've been a fan of for so long. So I feel like now the piece in the puzzle that I play is just continuing to get us all talking about it, you know. So I think I want to be as active on my socials as possible. Just so we can all keep interacting with each other. I love talking to people about not only Big Brother, but my experience. So like the people that have come up to me pretty constantly in the real world just to like, you know, take a photo or encourage me or talk about the game, like I welcome all of it. I will stop at any time, any place and talk for however long somebody lets me because it's such a big opportunity to get to do this. And one that so many people across the country and the world would love to have. I don't take that for granted for a second. And so I want to tell the story. The piece in the puzzle I play now is just to, like I said, keep getting people talking about it. So I'm pumping out content as much as I can,
Mhm.
referencing the show, you know, wanting to interact with fans, you know, people like you as much as possible. I'll do it all. So yeah, my TikTok is Matt Hardeman _. And then I actually just signed with Jag's TikTok agency Nova. So there'll definitely be some stuff coming there. I'm going live a lot, and he's kind of showing me the ropes through there. Maybe some Matt and Jag battles, guitar and ukulele sessions coming soon. Yeah, so I'll go live for most of the episodes just to talk about it. I know even like this Wednesday and Thursday with McKenzie being a potential, you know,
Ooh,
renom, and then also with people campaigning for her not to use her power. Like my reaction will be real, you know, like it's gonna
yeah.
be so. Going live on there a lot. My Instagram's Matt _Hardeman as well. I'm, you know, just wanting to tell the story of our season and interact with fans as much as possible and keep us all talking about Big Brother. But besides that, in the future, this is something that I wanted to do before the show. But even my experience on the show, I thought was, you know, aligned with what I was kind of hoping to do at the beginning of this year. But I plan on starting a podcast called Figuring It Out. One thing I recognize as a 25-year-old is I was like, man, there's so many of these things about being growing up in our world, in our culture that no one's teaching you, and you just have to like figure it out in real time. And I kept catching myself in conversations being like, yeah, bro, I'm just figuring it out. So that's kind of the plan. I kind of want to take that and run and talk a little bit about like, hey, how do we figure out forgiveness? How do we figure out relationships and trust, like all these themes from Big Brother that I think will not only allow us to continue to talk about the story of the show, but also to learn and grow and who we are as people. So that's kind of the plan. I think that'll be coming soon, kind of when the show ends, and I'll get running on there, and that would be awesome as well. So that's kind of the plan, and everything else we'll just have to see what happens. Hopefully, I'll get a call from, you know, the Amazing Race or the Challenge or something, and we can get back and compete. But that's the plan for right now. But I'm super thankful for all the love and the support, and for everybody who interacts with my stuff. And I can't even believe it. I really can't. I'm truly am a normal guy in a small town in Georgia, and so it's just a dream come true. So I'm thankful for all of it, and thankful for you. Thankful for this conversation.
Oh, thank you, Matt. Honestly,
Yeah,
you are such a good sport. Thank you so much for being here. I really
absolutely.
appreciate it.
My honor, my pleasure. Any way that I can support you and your platform, everybody go follow BBSteph. She is the GOAT when it comes to Big Brother and reality TV clips. So huge fan and happy to
Oh my
have her.
gosh. You're the best, Matt. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
absolutely,
I wish
absolutely.
you all the luck.
I appreciate it. I appreciate
Bye.
it. Thanks, Steph. Bye. Have a good day.